Due to popular demand, we will forego our national anthem.
To get you back to the show that's for the people, by the people. You're on the Afternoon Drive with Jake Wimberly.
I love that guy.
On ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
We are brought to you by Sound and Communications. Head over to the website, soundcomav.com. Collaborate, design, and build with our friends at Sound and Communications. They've been helping the state of Mississippi since 1955. Call 601-957-5830 for more information on how they can help you. And, of course, rentals for outdoor equipment and more at Sound and Communications. Paul Jones, 247sports.com. Gene's Page, kind enough to be with us today talking Mississippi State as the Bulldogs move into the second portion of the recruiting season. And, of course, football never ends nowadays, does it, Paul? How are you, Paul? Welcome in.
Not doing good. How are you?
Paul, doing fine. I wanted to get your thoughts on a couple things here as we, of course, basketball is going on, and we'll dive into that if we get time. But when you look at the football side of things, Paul, how hard has it become for you guys that cover recruiting on a daily basis? I mean, you guys do a wonderful job doing this. 247, I've always said, has the best staff, regardless of whatever team that you guys may cover. Do a great job of the evaluation side of things. But with the transfer portal and now all of this moving around, how much harder has it become to actually do what you love to do, which is cover the recruiting and, of course, players headed here, there, and yonder?
Well, I tell you what, Jake, it really stretches it out, to be honest with you. And back in the day when it was just mainly high school and JUCO guys, once you got past February, you were done. You turned the page to the next class and started focusing in on them. But, it's not a total shock or nothing new because I've been dealing with this in basketball recruiting because, the transfer portal was a bigger thing before it got to football. And, Mississippi State would have just like they did this past season in basketball, had several transfers that they picked up over the summertime. One thing that's changed, and it actually started last year, you get most of your high school and JUCO guys in the December period, Jake, and then, man, it's almost the majority, the rest of the targets left are transfer portal guys. Mississippi State looking at their board moving forward, and, of course, with the transfer portal, it changes every day. You don't know who's going to jump in there or who's getting new offers and all that. But, I would say just off the top of my head, Jake, Mississippi State's probably got maybe 7, 8, 9 spots left, and I'd be shocked if 70% of those aren't filled with transfer guys. It'll be very light on the high school side when it comes to who they sign in February, and it'll mostly be transfer guys. Right now, it's really hectic because even though Mississippi State has a later starting date than normal for the spring semester, I think first day of school for the spring semester is January 18th. You're trying to get these guys in here for visits and trying to, see who likes you and who doesn't, and try to focus in on your main targets and get them signed and get them in school here in a couple of weeks. So it's a lot happening in a short period of time.
Paul Jones on your radio, Wednesday edition of the program, as we're talking Mississippi State football and recruiting and the transfer portal and how hard it is to navigate through. And, Paul, you referenced, Mississippi State with, 7, 8 guys and possibly 70% of that towards the transfer portal. When you look at the wide receiver position, what is, I know Mekhi Polk obviously declared for the NFL draft. What is that actual status? We've been asked that. Did he sign with an agent? Can he come back, or has he kind of crossed the Rubicon River, so to speak, into the NFL officially?
Yeah, I can't speak if he signed with an agent, but I don't think anybody expects him back. He's going to try his luck at the NFL. It's kind of a surprise. I thought he could still get bigger and stronger, and make some more headway to move up in the draft. And he may very well get drafted. We'll see how he does and see if he gets a combine invite. But obviously, he had a heck of a year for Mississippi State, and we saw that coming back in the spring when we got our first look at him and saw the difference he could make for this team. And he just continued that through fall camp and obviously carried it over to the season. But right now he's expected back. I expect him to follow through with the draft. And, that thing can change too, Jake. You never know who's going to pop up and say entering the draft or all that. But right now, it looks like as of today, as of 5:20 on Wednesday, it looks like Martin Emerson and Charles Cross and Mekhi Polk will be the three that they lose early to the draft.
Obviously, this is Will Rogers' team. He will be a junior. It's hard to believe already as you turn into 2022 football. But what about behind him? That depth gets a little better. There's a little more competition. Kind of speak of what that could look like and who that might be, to be behind Will Rogers and maybe even push him a little bit.
Well, I've heard, nothing definite yet, but I've heard a couple rumors that Jack Abraham was going to try to come back for another year. Obviously, injuries kept him out this season, but we'll see what happens there. But, Sawyer Robertson, Daniel Greek, true freshman this year. They'll be a year older. We'll have a year in the weight room. And, of course, Greek got here by, last January. So he's been on campus now for almost a year. Sawyer got here this past summer. So, you expect those guys to make a jump. You expect them to push Will and to have a good competition in the spring. But, as you said, I think it's going to be hard for somebody to overtake Will, mainly from not just that experience category, but one thing people often forget is, and you kind of touch base on it, Jake, just the leadership. He has command of that team. Those guys look to him, and he's earned the respect of his guys. And sometimes that's half of winning the quarterback battle, just how well you can command the team. And, those guys follow his lead, and that's going to be tough for somebody to overcome in a year. I love the future of Sawyer Robertson and Daniel Greek both. And, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But, I expect a good competition, but at the same time, I'd be shocked if Will's not the starting quarterback when we start up the 2022 season.
Paul, we had Chris Landry on with Landry Football last hour, and we talked about the transfer portal, and I think you and I might have spoke of this before. I tend to lose my mind at some point as I get older, but about how the transfer portal possibly could be hurting high school kids that are what I consider, and this is, no disrespect to any of them, a fringe player, a guy that maybe several years ago you would see a State or an Ole Miss maybe take with that last scholarship or two, take a chance on, maybe even take a gray shirt. Now with the transfer portal, as you just said, State's got 7-8 spots left, likely going to take, luckily, maybe 50, 60, 70% of those are going to be transfer portal guys. Does the junior college system possibly become an even bigger destination for some of these guys, not only in the state of Mississippi, but around the South, to maybe land at a spot, to go maybe try to get a little better? And we've always seen the junior college system used, as an outlet for kids, but maybe even a bigger part now with the way the transfer portal might eliminate some spots on the Power 5 level for some of these kids.
Yeah, and I think it's going to have to be because, a lot of these kids aren't going to find a landing spot. And some of them will head to JUCO to get another year under their belt, the ones that are able to go to the JUCO level and, start it over again and try to get some more traction, whether it's D1 level or FCS or what have you. But, that's one part of it that bothers me, and I don't know how you fix it, Jake. I don't know if you go back to making them sit out a year, but maybe go back and let them sit out a year if they transfer again, but don't cost that year. You know what I'm saying? Don't take away that year of eligibility from them because they put in a new rule. If you transfer twice and you got to sit out, well, guess what? 90% of guys that transfer twice are probably graduate transfers. So they don't have to sit out anyway. So to me, that rule was kind of a lot about nothing. But there's going to have to be some tweaks because, I'm all for guys transferring. And we've seen that already with Mississippi State. Guys that want more playing time or, guys get caught up in coaching changes. And, you saw that last year with Mississippi State. Offensive change in philosophy. Obviously, Garrett Schrader didn't fit the air raid offense. Jalen Maiden didn't fit it. Those were no-brainers. I have no issue with that, and I wish those guys the best. I think it is in their best interest to go find another school where they can play and where, find a system that fits them better. But, man, we got first-team all-conference players leaving now, and it's just a mess. And, it's much like the NIL rules that we have, not to go down that rabbit hole, but it's just like the NIL rules. So, it's different rules for different states. And once again, NCAA, just like the transfer portal, they sat back and did nothing. And in a lot of words, they created this mess. And, no leadership, nobody there to step up and say, hey, here's how we got to fix it. There's none of that right now. They're just sitting back and letting the chaos continue because, another thing too, man, they're going to have to find a different time frame for these transfer portals because, coaches want to have their, basketball coaches face this a lot, especially with the NBA draft and stuff like that. But coaches want their roster set when they come out of spring practice. You want to know what the depth chart looks like. You want to know who to focus on and who needs to do what and where the biggest battles are. But, now, man, you start spring practice and you're not sure if that's going to be your roster or not when you hit the field in September.
Let me ask you this as we get you underway on your way here. Defensively for Mississippi State, got some nice players on this first signing class. How important is this class, to keep Mississippi State's defense at a it's been very competitive, very good at times, sometimes some head scratching going on. But as far as to populate into next season, how important will it be for some of these guys to be able to play immediately?
Yeah, I think it's going to be huge. But, to look at State's defense, the good thing is a lot of them won't be pressed into action. I think of guys like Travion Williams, that are he may have a lot to say in that depth chart on the defensive line just from a talent standpoint. But, you look at the guys they brought in last year, they got the red shirt. John Lewis, one of the best defensive players in the state, but their linebacker depth was so good this year, and same thing up front with the defensive line. But, from a linebacker and defensive line perspective, Jake, they knocked it out of the park again. And I think that future looks great at those positions. Still got to fix the back end. They did, sign a couple of good safeties, Wes Miller and Trent Singleton from the high school front. And, of course, you added cornerback to Carlos Nicholson, who not a high school kid, but he is a JUCO guy that has 3 years to play. So that's a good thing, too. But I think still got to fix that back in and the secondary moving forward. And obviously they'll fill in some gaps with the transfer portal. But, man, when you look at the linebackers they brought in and the defensive linemen, I think that sets them up very well for the future.
He's Paul Jones. Make sure to find him on Twitter. Check him out at 247sports.com. That's Gene's page. Paul, I appreciate your time. Have a great rest of the week. We'll do it again soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks so much. Paul Jones on your radio, brought to you by Cobb's Cleaners. Go to cobbscleaners.com. Find the